Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro by Mapper Forward, friends. Today on the podcast, let's ask the question, is the pandemic over? At the time of recording this, we are beginning of May. There is a surge in India going on that is tragically setting new world records for this pandemic every day. The reported cases are that there are around 350,000 new cases a day, 35,000 deaths a day. What they assume is the actual number is 2 million new cases a day. And this is just in India. Okay, so that's the situation in one part of the world. In other parts of the world, they're declaring that the pandemic is over. You're hearing different media outlets and different politicians in the US declaring the pandemic over. Same thing is happening in some parts of the Middle East. Here in Australia, we're particularly remaining cautious. Our daily life is as though a pandemic is not happening, but our borders are still closed. We are terminating flights from, in some states, from everywhere in the world because our case rates in our hotel quarantine are unmanageable. So by all accounts, the immediate response to is the pandemic over is twofold. If you look at the numbers and you look at the science and you look at the economics, the answer is very clearly, hell no, the pandemic is not over. But if you look at the media, well, the answer is depending on what you consume. Same as if you look at the leadership of whether it be local government, state government, federal government. Again, it depends on who you're listening to and what you're consuming. But at the core of it, what we need to keep in mind is that the agenda of the people that are telling you what's going on is heavily weighted towards what they need you to believe. And one massive takeaway from the whole Trump administration, as well as particularly in this pandemic, is that we need to be particularly, what's the word I'm looking for? We need to be particularly conscious and hyper aware of what we're consuming and what it's trying to inform us of. The reality of the situation in our industry is that we have been massively affected by this pandemic, and that the leadership across the world has cost our industry a lot of money. It's cost our industry a lot of businesses. It's cost our employees a lot of their jobs. And we are right on the knife's edge of whichever way this knife tips, we have to react to it. So it's open everything back up, close it all down. Open everything back up, close it all down. We have to play this reactive game towards whatever leadership decides is going to happen. And so, if today they're telling us that the pandemic is over, tomorrow they might declare and say, whoops, sorry, we got it wrong. And that messes with people's businesses in a way that's so ridiculously unfair that if it's not hitting you by now, that the majority of the people in governmental positions don't have your best interests at heart. Majority. I didn't say all, I said majority. And I do have to give the Australian government a shout out here, because the Australian government has done an incredible job of helping small businesses survive through the pandemic. We are starting to see here the results of what happens when that funding is taken away. But we've had a pretty, I didn't spend the majority of the pandemic here. I'm only freshly new into this and just observing. But I did spend most of the pandemic in the US, and I know that in the American culture, businesses were pretty much left to fend for themselves, even though they did get some government funding. With the decisions that were made to open and close and open and close and open and close, you're an essential business, you're not an essential business, you're an essential employee, you're not an essential employee, etc., is totally fucked with our industry. And so what I would caution is fashioning your business in a way that you're prepared for what's coming, fashioning your career in a way, short term 2 years, to prepare for whatever the leadership in your local area, state area, federal area is going to decide, and how they influence the way you're able to do what you're going to do. Because India is a great example of what happens when the restrictions on the guidelines of how we should be moving in life during a pandemic are relaxed too early because of economic reasons. And that's not me making any opinion on that at all. I have no opinion. I'm purely an observer of all of this. And so what happened in India is that they relaxed the guidelines too soon, because the economic impact of having restrictions and lockdowns was far greater than the cost of locking everybody down, or the cost of opening everything back up. And so they rolled the dice, they opened everything back up so that they could get the economy moving again. And now what we're starting to see is catastrophic strains put on their hospital system. Now, this is something that we're starting to see happen in other places around the world, not the catastrophic part of it, but the opening back up. And for all intents and purposes, I hope that it all goes well. I want to see society thriving and moving, and businesses trying to put themselves back together, and people thriving in their careers again. But I think that we need to take a measured approach to that re-entry, and I don't think that we're there. I think that we should continue to be vigilant on how quickly we move back into trying to think that we're in a space of normalcy. It's just simply not here. And if you look at, not listen to what you're being told, if you look at what the data is saying, the data that the people who are telling you that it's over, the data they're basing those numbers on, as well as other parts of data. Again, we're talking about making sure we're critical thinkers who are open-minded. Stay open to the possibility that the pandemic isn't over, even though your power structures and the people who are in decision-making positions in your communities are telling you that it is over. Take a look around. Make the decision for yourself. Consider the things that you don't know. For example, the variants that are coming out. Are they entering the country that you're in? Are you starting to see an increased incidence of those variants? How do you feel about that? And how do you want to prepare yourself in case there's an unexpected surge like what's happened in India? I am getting questions from people, and the reason I wanted to have this episode is because I'm getting questions from people saying, is business going to go back to normal at any time soon? Is the pandemic over? And when the way the episodes that we have on this podcast are decided are through the questions that come through my coaching, my mastermind groups, and the questions that we get via email. When we get a couple of questions that are the same, they end up becoming an episode of the podcast. And we have been getting this one quite a lot. People saying, I don't know what to believe. I'm hearing on the media that the government is telling me that the pandemic's over, but I look at the case numbers and they're still increasing. They're not a lot, they're not huge, they're not like they are in India, but they're still going up. And I don't know what that means. So should I listen to them or shouldn't I listen to them? And to quote one of my favorite movies, I just want you to make up your own damn mind. Make up your own mind and get independence for your own thinking and decision making. And you will start to see you gaining flow in your business and your career that is independent of being reactive to what's going on in the outside world. I think that that's one way we create a better coffee industry. Peace, love, and peanut butter, friends. Have an amazing rest of your day.